Into it. Gang, you know what time it is. It's time for you to engage with this here content. It's Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Consider channel membership, become an official member of the Fire Fam. And you can support us on all the cash platforms. BIDWKB. Follow us, find us, and support us. So the week of July 24th, here in Washington, D.C., it has been rocking for the past few days because the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, decided to roll his funky ass into town and get in front of Congress and just pop all the shit that he wanted to about Americans exercising their freedom of speech and freedom to protest and assemble. He had like negative shit to say about that, disparaging the folks that took to the streets of Washington, D.C. and the thousands surrounding the U.S. Capitol. Even days before Netanyahu's congressional address, the protesters had been surrounding the Watergate Hotel where the prime minister was staying. They correctly made sure that motherfucker did not get a good night's sleep. War criminals are coming to town. Oh, what? They think they can get a good night's sleep, huh? In the 3,000 thread count sheets. No, sir. Not around these parts. Not here on today. So I want us to take a look at some of the scenes, everybody, because when I tell you the folks came out, the folks absolutely came out. And, you know, it was interesting to see. We're not going to look at too much of Netanyahu's speech at all, because I don't know how or what I can and cannot say here on the tube of use, but he was giving me big Adolf H energy. I mean, was it just me? You guys ever seen the old speeches of Adolf H? Even though I couldn't understand German, you know, I understood. Even I may not have been able to translate, but I understood what the fuck he was saying and the energy in which he was saying it with. And I'm telling you, Benji Netanyahu was giving me Adolf H energy up that bitch. And you know what? I don't give a fuck if it gets me in trouble, if anybody has a problem with it, because at the end of the day, Benjamin Netanyahu is overseeing a genocide. So tell me, how does he really differentiate from Adolf H? Fuck him. So the streets was also like, yes, fuck Bibi Netanyahu out this bitch. So let us get right into it. So where am I starting here first? So let us do this. Let's take a look at the way that this was covered from foreign media, because I did not make it down to the protest. Something came up. I wasn't able to go. But I was watching the coverage because obviously it was a local story to me, but a national story as well. And they had reporters down there covering the protests. I thought they covered it somewhat fairly. They were fair in saying that, you know, it was overwhelmingly nonviolent. And of course, we know that in addition to Metropolitan Police, which are DC police, NYPD came down with 200 officers. What the fuck for? Y'all could have stayed y'all asses up top and terrorized your own citizens. We didn't need that shit down here. And so anyway, I was interested in the way that the foreign press covered this versus the domestic press. And pay attention to one of the lead things, one of the first 2 to 3 facts mentioned in this package, because to me it was very telling of the balance, dare I say, that this particular news agency was willing to give the events surrounding the protests around Netanyahu's visit. Let's take a look at that.
At the very moment, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was receiving a rapturous ovation from members of Congress. Some of the thousands of protesters who'd gathered outside were pepper sprayed by police and had to seek treatment. Police from New York joined those from Washington, D.C. in guarding the Capitol from congressional constituents from all over the U.S. who were determined to emphasize that the politicians inside did not represent them.
The goal is to issue a citizen's arrest for the war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, how likely is that?
Well, I think it's likely that we've sent the message. You know, our ability to actually enforce international law is severely limited.
When you have a demonstration like we are the constituents, I think we're almost there. It's a movement. It's going to take a constant push.
Like so many other U.S. protests against the Israeli war, a diverse group gathered to show their solidarity with the people of Gaza. During his address to members of Congress, the Israeli Prime Minister criticized those protesting outside the Capitol building and across the country, accusing them of standing with evil.
We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
As he was speaking, Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian member of Congress, held up two signs. One said war criminal, the other guilty of genocide. And outside, some protesters took issue with a claim by Netanyahu suggesting they were paid agents of Iran.
I totally believe he finds it hard to believe that we don't want genocide. He finds it easy to dehumanize people. So when he sees people in the streets to protect human life, that is completely foreign to him.
One prominent U.S. musician also expressed his outrage over the war in Gaza.
It's a disgusting show of support for someone that doesn't deserve our support. I'm ashamed that my tax dollars are going to the brutalizing of an entire people.
Netanyahu is due to meet with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris separately at the White House Thursday. Some of the demonstrators here say they'll be outside the White House too, making their voices heard. Shia Bratansi, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Yeah, Al Jazz is usually going to cover the thing straight up, and I appreciate their ongoing reporting covering the genocide happening in Gaza. I also appreciate, again, the way that they led off with the fact that while Netanyahu was inside addressing Congress, the constituents of Congress were outside getting pepper sprayed. It's interesting that they had all those police out there to deal with folks that oppose Netanyahu's visit and his speech. I promise you, it was not that many police out there on January the 6th, guys. It was not that many police out there for J6. Where was NYPD when it came to J6? Oh, that's right. NYPD was in the crowd. That's right. I'm sorry. They took off to come to January 6th to participate in the riot and in the storming of the U.S. Capitol. That's where NYPD was, right? My bad. They were down there, but they weren't down there in their official capacity. Anywho, the protests outside were one thing, but there were a number of folks. I think the number I heard, correct me, chat, if you guys know better. I think I heard 6 folks were taken out of the House chamber for interruptions during Netanyahu's speech. But one person who sat up in there in his face was Michigan Congressperson Rashida Tlaib. And, you know, all the criticisms we have about the squad, I think, are very valid and legit. But when it comes to the issue of Palestine and the U.S. complicit support of Israeli settler, colonists, Rashida has been 10 toes down, consistent. And that's great, actually, when you think about it, because think about how many minorities, and maybe not minorities, but people of color and Black people, but people of color who come to this country as immigrants, and then they get assimilated in the system, and then they turn their back on their people. They turn their back on what U.S. policy is doing to their people in their homeland. Rashida Tlaib is not that person. She is not that girl. Okay. Every time the Israeli Iron Dome defense spending comes up on the floor, Rashida got a lot to say. She got a lot to say. So I want us to actually hear a clip of Rashida Tlaib. I believe this was the day that Netanyahu addressed Congress, or it was the week. She was wearing her Palestinian scarf, and she had some tough talk for some of her congressional colleagues. And then we're going to cut to Rashida sitting in the House chamber, staring Netanyahu, aka Pennsylvania's Adolf H, the Philly suburbs, Adolf H, fucking Benjamin Netanyahu. Rashida Tlaib stared that motherfucker dead in his face and held up that war criminal sign right in his face. I loved it. Anyway, let's hear from Rashida Tlaib.
Of my colleagues coming to me whispering, I don't really like Netanyahu. Well, then why are we sending him billions of dollars with no conditions? He literally is telling us over and over again what his intention is. I'm tired of my colleagues coming and whispering to me, Rashida, I support two-state solution. Great. Then send money that conditions for a two-state solution, because Netanyahu has over and over again told us he never wants to see a Palestinian state. So I'm tired. I oppose Netanyahu's war crimes and want him gone too. But many of my colleagues that continue to tell me that do not want to condition the aid. They give it to a genocidal maniac. My message to those my colleagues is simple. If you don't support Netanyahu, if you're disgusted by the countless videos of lifeless children pulled out of the rubble, if you actually believe in upholding human rights and international law, vote no on a blank check to Netanyahu's genocide.
When the blood libels against the Jewish state come from people who wear fancy silk robes and speak in lofty tones about law and justice, here's a case in point. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has shamefully accused Israel of deliberately starving the people of Gaza. This is utter, complete nonsense. It's a complete fabrication. Israel has enabled more than 40,000 aid trucks to enter Gaza. That's 500,000 tons of food, and that's more than 3,000 calories for every man, woman, and child in Gaza. If there are Palestinians in Gaza who aren't getting enough food, it's not because Israel is blocking it, it's because Hamas.
He went on to say because Hamas stole it. And it was really rich for Benjamin Netanyahu to sit up there in Washington, D.C., home of the World Central Kitchen, where workers from that organization, which Jose Chef Andres is the head of, sending food aid to tumultuous places across the globe, including Gaza. And it was Benjamin Netanyahu's forces that murdered the World Central Kitchen workers, right? While they were doing what? Bringing in aid to Gazans. The amount of lies that Netanyahu told it was Trump-esque. And I can only assume that the motherfucker either A, intentionally knew he was lying, or B, truly lives in a alternate reality in which the deaths, the intentional murders via bombs and missiles and bullets and drone strikes, the intentional death of tens of thousands of civilians, half of those children, doesn't even bother to escape his lips. Can't even bring himself to say it, right? Which is amazing, because I thought most demons could be truthful, but this demon, no, this demon was not able to do that. Shout out to Rashida Tlaib for taking her stand. And I want us to take it to the outside, everybody, whereby the tens of thousands. And unfortunately, I don't know if we'll get an accurate number of how many were actually out there, because, for propaganda purposes, it's not in the U.S. interest to disclose that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of its citizens came out to protest its biggest ally, right? America doesn't want that information getting out there, at least not the specifics of it. And the U.S. Park Police is able to kind of gauge, I suppose, some of that information, or Park Police. But, I don't think they'll come out and say what the real number was. But let's take it to the streets, because everything looked mighty impressive, can I say? The folks let Netanyahu know, but they also toe up shit. They toe up shit. They was tearing down American flags and Israeli flags, setting them joints on fire. Columbus Circle, where the statue of Christopher Columbus, I'm pretty sure, still stands. Yep, that joint always gets the business. when the left protests come to town and decide to tear up, they always throw in some red paint on Christopher Columbus statue. I said, that's what I'm talking about. That is the kind of cutting up I am definitely here for. So wait, let me say less and let us go to the streets of Washington, D.C., where the folks came out to let Netanyahu know that genociders and Zionists will not be tolerated. Nope, sure won't. Not with peace. Let's go.
Free Palestine! Because Netanyahu is a war criminal and should be arrested and should not be speaking in front of the United States Congress.
We are here to fight in the name of not only the Palestinian people, but all of the global South that throughout history have been victims of war, genocide, and oppression by the first world, by the so-called Western powers.
I'm here for you. I stand with you. I will always defend and protect you, no matter where I am.
This is one of the largest demonstrations in the history of the United States, with thousands of pro-Palestine demonstrators converging around the Capitol in protest of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit.
As a medical community, we are giving orders to the Capitol Police to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu as a war criminal.
So as U.S. citizens and U.S. taxpayers, we think it's our duty to stand up. This day is very shameful. This will be another dark stain on U.S. history.
I'm a Palestinian. I came from North Carolina.
I am a Jew. I am a rabbi. I am an Arab. And my words feel hollow.
Our government is complicit because they are hosting this war criminal instead of ordering him to stop the genocide.
People are waking up not only to what's happening in U.S. funding for Israel and Gaza, but just the continued funding of the U.S. empire, wars and militarization around the world.
For those who are running for elections, the only way for them to get our votes is to demand and implement an immediate ceasefire.
Really, really powerful scenes from Washington, D.C. this week, protesting the visit and congressional address of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Credit to the photojournalist on the ground, the accounts, Palestinian Culture One, and Scootercaster. Wonderful, wonderful on the ground coverage. Appreciate getting those perspectives and person on the street interviews from the real actual attendees. And people are so clear and so understanding of exactly what is at stake as it pertains to this issue. And for one of the last persons interviewed in the package who said, you know, and for everybody that's running for office, you need to know that our votes are contingent upon how you respond to this issue. And Kamala did issue a statement. I didn't pull it. The amount I'm about to hear from Kamala for the next 3 months, like, please, I have to take Kamala in doses. However, I did listen to the statement that she gave. In case you did not know, Kamala and Joe Biden did not attend Netanyahu's speech. I suppose it was viewed as somewhat of a snub. And I'm like, well, if the United States under Biden-Harris is still cutting the checks and sending the weapons, I mean, who gives a fuck? If Netanyahu don't give a fuck if they didn't come to his little funky ass speech. As long as they still cutting the checks and sending the missiles, that's all they care about. But from a political perspective, Kamala's statement was actually, she did as good of a job as someone in her position can do at threading the needle between being overly critical or critical at all about how Israel is fighting this war against Hamas, they say, but all the Palestinians is getting demolished out here. But one thing she did say, that one phrase she used that jumped out at me, she could not come out and call out Netanyahu for intentionally and deliberately starving Palestinians, which is exactly what is happening right now in Gaza. She said that Palestinians are suffering from acute food insecurity. That was the phrase. I said, bitch, you mean starvation. And she said it like twice. She said acute food insecurity is having such a detrimental effect. No, bitch, starvation. When there is literally a land blockade on aid coming into Gaza, when the Israeli forces are literally dropping bombs and missiles on aid convoys, trying to bring food and supplies into Gaza, those are intentional acts and those are war crimes, right? Those are the same kinds of crimes that the U.S. gets all huffy with Russia about as it pertains to Ukraine. But when Netanyahu and Israeli forces do it, oh, well, they're trying their best to be conscious of minimizing civilian deaths. No, they aren't. And the jig is up. Everybody in this country knows what time it is. And the people that came out to D.C. to protest Netanyahu were just a fraction of those that probably wanted to come out. Fire fam, did you want to go? Did you want to go? If you had the ability, the means, the time off to travel to DC to give fucking Netanyahu the business on July 24th, would you have done so if you were able? I'm sure you were. And Netanyahu's such a pussy. Well, pardon me. No. I'm sorry. Well, I can't even say he's soft because he ain't soft. This motherfucker's terrible. He's a tyrant. He is a hardened war criminal out here. However, his face absolutely resembles a scrotum, right? Scrotum-faced bastard. He's another one of them scrotum-faced bastards. What did this nigga get up there and say well, he said many things that I found ridiculous. Oh, when he was being critical of the protesters, he said something, an offhanded comment trying to mock the numbers. He was like, oh, well, it was just a few of them out there. Oh, just a few, bitch. Oh, okay. No, it wasn't just a few. It might have been a few outside the Watergate giving you the fucking blues. And I don't even think it was a few of them. I think it was more than Netanyahu probably was expecting. And shout out to the coalitions again that came out and supported and showed up. The Palestinian groups, along with Black liberation groups, along with, Jewish Voices for Peace. I mean, Kamala Harris needs to understand that as much of an issue as the genocide in Palestine was going to be an anchor dragging down Joe Biden at the top of the ticket, she is not absolved. And I know there's a whole bunch of, Black girl magic enthusiasm going on. Please kindly remind the folks, if you don't mind, that Kamala is simply going to assume the reins if she were to win the election. Kamala is only going to assume the reins of enabling and supporting the genocide. She is not here to stop it. If Joe Biden, with all of his accumulated political capital and relationships that he has built over 5 decades in Washington, not just in the halls of Congress, not just in the White House, but literally around the world, right? They sent Joe Biden around the world to push a lot of terrible shit, okay? A lot of terrible foreign policy, right? So Joe Biden and Netanyahu, regardless of whether or not they like or dislike one another, they have an extensive relationship. And Joe Biden, if he had any influence over Netanyahu, perhaps he tried to exercise it. Maybe he didn't even try. But my point is, Kamala's got less than Joe, okay? Kamala's got less political capital than Joe Biden, and she's already got 2 strikes against her because she's not white and she's not male. When did a white mandem listen to non-white women? Be serious. Be serious. So Kamala knows that she can't make Netanyahu do jack fucking shit out here in terms of accepting the terms of a ceasefire. And even if said terms were to be accepted by Israel and by Hamas, you can count on Israel to violate that because they've already violated war crimes. There's already arrest warrants out. There's already investigations by international agencies, the ICJ and the ICC, as to whether or not Israel is committing genocide. They are. And Netanyahu don't give a single shit about any of that. Who gonna check him, boo? Who is going to check him? It's not going to be Kamala. And clearly it's not going to be the hundreds of genocide enablers that were members of mostly the Republican, but also some members of the Democratic Party there in Congress who hosted this man, who let him come on to American soil to disparage the citizens of this country, to smear the citizenry of this country, to make accusations of the citizenry that everyone out there was paid Iranian puppets. And it's like, oh, that's original. We just switching up Iran for Russia. Oh, okay, cool. That's not going to work. So I wanted to big up and loud up all the folks that came out, turned up. And we're going to have to put the same pressure on these Democrats, whether or not we think it's going to work, whether or not we may actually have to endure a Trump presidency. Because, guys, I don't believe in rewarding motherfuckers who keep playing in our face. I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that. I don't see why people that lie to us do not have our best interests, certainly do not have the best interests of the nations and of the people that we are exploiting with our foreign policy abroad, right? Like, I don't think those people should win elections. And I don't think the response is, well, if you think it's bad now, wait till Trump gets in. I mean, you're not threatening me with a worser time. like the bar is already in hell. What you think is going to Hades? What you think is going to the Earth's inner core? Like how much farther do we expect this bar to fall? If not, we are seeing the what I consider quite terrible times under Democratic leadership. And I know Trump says it's scarier, but the problem is the Democrats kind of do it better. They do it more nicely. They do it with diversity, equity, and inclusion. they get the rainbow coalition out there to impose capitalism, white supremacy, and American military dominance on the rest of the globe.